If you've never made shrimp scampi before, you are going to be in for a treat. It is quick, it is delicious, and if you buy the frozen shrimp, it can also be economical. All right, let me show you how to make it. So we're first going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil into a large bowl, and then I'm also going to add 2 cloves of garlic. If you're not a fan, you could definitely pull it back to 1. I just think there's nothing better than the combination of garlicky shrimp, tomatoes, and pasta. It's so yummy. And then you also want to add a pinch of salt, just to taste, some freshly cracked pepper. And then if you like a little bit of heat, and I think it's actually really great with the tomatoes, I would add a pinch or 2 of red pepper flakes. There we go. And you can save some for the end to put on top of the pasta. That's also really good too, if you just want to serve it as a garnish. I think that helps if you're serving this to children. They may not always be such a fan of the red pepper flakes, but the grown-ups may like it. And then you're also going to add 2 tablespoons of flat leaf parsley. And one of the things that I think really makes this dish easy is we are going to roast our shrimp in the oven. I also think that roasting the shrimp keeps all the flavor in the shrimp. So if you've ever had shrimp scampi and the shrimp feel not as flavorful, I think when you cook it and then put it in the sauce, it tends to water down the flavor of the shrimp. So this way I make the sauce, I roast the shrimp, and then I combine them at the end. And that just keeps each component like really flavorful on its own, and then when it all comes together, it's super delicious. All right, I'm gonna set this aside for a minute and let's talk about our shrimp. I think you save a ton of money when you buy the frozen shrimp. You get it in 1-pound bags, you can keep it in your freezer, you can keep the pasta in your pantry, and then all you really have to do is buy the tomatoes and the lemon if you wanna make this dish. The kind of shrimp that I like to buy is peeled, deveined, with the tail on. I like to have the tail on because I think it prevents them from drying out. So what you might spend an inconvenience taking the tails off when you eat it, you will thank me for the moisture and the succulence that you will get with the shrimp. The day before I plan to make this dish, I put the bag of frozen shrimp in the refrigerator, taking it out of the freezer. And that way it has a chance to thaw out, and then I pat it down just to get rid of any excess moisture. What I typically do is take it with the tongs and put it in the bowl rather than take the whole thing of shrimp and pop it in the bowl, because if there's moisture that is collected in this bowl, you're just gonna dilute your sauce. So it's better to just take them and put them in a little bit at a time. See, look at all that water that's still in the shrimp, even though we patted it dry. So we don't want this moisture in our bowl. So now we are just going to toss this all up and pour it out onto our pan here. Okay. I forgot to do something. I am working with new cameras. I hope you like them, but my distraction with the new cameras had me forget a step. Here is a step that is not critical, but I do like to do it, and that is butterflying the shrimp. It's a really easy technique that actually makes the shrimp plump up and just look a little bit prettier on the plate. All you do is take the shrimp and just cut the backside. So see, we didn't go too far. We can actually do it just before we roast them. So if you do forget to do it, you can do it this way too. You don't want to overcook them, because overcooked shrimp is rubbery shrimp, and that's not going to be good for anybody. So take it out just when it's pink like this, because we're going to continue cooking it just a smidge with the sauce. All right, now while our pan is still warm, this is one thing I like to do, is add the butter. So shrimp scampi is really great with that garlicky butter with lemon. But I find when you're roasting it in the oven, it's hard to add the butter because you don't want the butter to burn, but you can just put it right on the pan because the pan is still warm. This is my little trick. And then as it just sort of sits here, you can just toss it with the butter and it'll create this most delicious buttery sauce. And then to get the most lemon flavor, I like to add the lemon zest in this stage too, because the warmth from the pan and the shrimp will start to release the oils of the lemon, but it won't overcook it like if we put it in the oven. I find that you don't get that fresh lemony taste. So this is the best of both worlds. I do about a ½ teaspoon. So let's set this aside and we'll work on our sauce. This is a really easy sauce to make, and in fact, you can make it in the wintertime because I find that cherry tomatoes, not only are they sweeter for something like this, but you can pretty much get them year round. The other reason why I love the cherry tomatoes is we aren't gonna have to cut them because they're so small, we are just going to cook them down and mash them with a potato masher, which makes this a lot easier. I have 1 pound of cherry tomatoes. They are gonna go in next. And I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of a dry white wine. So I'm using a Sauvignon Blanc, but you could also use Pinot Grigio, that would be fine. So we're just basically going to cook these tomatoes in the wine with the top on, because the top is going to help them sort of steam and soften, which will then allow us to mash them with our potato masher. Then once you start to see them blister and sort of pop apart, then you know that they're ready for the potato masher. And at that point, I would just turn the flame down. Ooh, look at that. And then slowly but surely give them a mash. And be careful, because they're hot and they're gonna splatter a little bit. See, and as they burst, they start to create this delicious little tomato sauce. that we are going to toss with our pasta. Then to season the sauce, I am going to add one more garlic clove. I know, I do like it garlicky, but I find that way the sauce gets flavored with the garlic because the garlic we put in the shrimp sort of stays on the shrimp since it's sort of baked into it. So this way, nobody's going to get chinced out of any garlic. Then I also like to add about a half a teaspoon of dried basil and then a little bit salt and some freshly cracked pepper. I like to add about a tablespoon of capers. Then we're going to add a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons, however much you like it, of fresh parsley, and that's going to add a really wonderful freshness. Our water is boiling, and I'm going to be using angel hair pasta for this. I love angel hair, especially for a weeknight, because it cooks up so quickly. If you wanted to use other types of pasta, I might actually double the sauce because you want a really nice saucy shrimp scampi. And if you have a pasta that's wider noodle or more dense, or a cut pasta like a penne or rigatoni, it's going to drink up more of that sauce, and then you're going to end up with sort of a dry scampi. So just double the sauce if that's the case. Then while your pasta's cooking, you can reheat your sauce, give it a taste. That is so good. The sweetness of the cherry tomatoes makes all the difference. They give you so much flavor. I think it's perfect, but you taste it at home, and if you feel you need a little bit more garlic, I can't imagine you would need any more garlic, but you can add it if you want. More capers, more parsley. It's sort of to taste, so just get it the way you like it, and when it's ready, then we're gonna add the shrimp. Even if the butter has started to kind of solidify a little bit, that's okay. Just make sure you get it all in the sauce, because as we heat it back up, it's going to melt in that sauce and create a luxurious sauce. Now, the one thing I have learned with pasta dishes is you can spend lots of time creating like the most delicious sauce, and then as soon as you put too much pasta in it, there goes the delicious sauce. I always like to just put it in a strainer first and add the pasta a little bit at a time, just so that I don't water down my sauce. Here is a little styling tip for you. Rather than try to take all this pasta and like spoon it out with tongs and put it on the plate, that's gonna make kind of a mess. You're better off letting gravity do its thing and just pour the pasta from the pan to your platter. And see what that does? It just creates like this effortless kind of dish that looks like you artfully styled it for hours, but really you just slid it off from the pan. I'll see you back here next week, and if you'd like more easy weeknight meals, click this playlist and I'll see you over there.